Well, hello everyone. Welcome to the round one recap here on the Shifts and Pucks podcast. The Shifts and Pucks round one recap. You can, of course, follow us on Twitter at Shifts and Pucks, Facebook.com Shifts and Pucks, YouTube.com Shifts and Pucks, Twitch.com Shifts and Pucks. You can subscribe wherever you get your audio, as well as on the Area 51 Sports Network. As the night ended here, we have completed the first round of the National Hockey League draft here on Thursday night. Round two will start tomorrow at 8 o'clock Pacific, 9 o'clock Mountain, 11 o'clock Eastern. We'll do a recap later on in a day of rounds 2 to 7 and everything that went on. It has been a busy day. We'll get into what the Canucks story and the Flame story here in a little bit, and we'll kind of recap the day, and lots did happen. And there was other stuff that was expected to happen that didn't happen. Did a deal fall through on the table at the draft floor? We'll look at that in a moment here. But let's start with what happened before the actual draft happened. It started with the New York Rangers. They sent goaltender Alexander Georgiev, who requested a trade out of New York, to the Colorado Avalanche. They got a third round and a fifth round pick in the 2022 NHL draft, as well as a third round pick in the 2023 NHL draft. Joe Sakic did say that Georgiev is expected to start. He played 33 games last year. He is coming off a 2-year, $4.85 million contract, 129 career games. The native of Bulgaria has 908 save percentage and a 2.94 goals against average, which, of course, for Colorado, it meant two things. The first thing that it meant in terms of the draft, they didn't have a pick because they've traded all a pick. Their first pick in this draft will be not until the sixth round. And so, and it looks like really this signals the end of the 1 year of Darcy Kuemper. Looks like Darcy Kuemper will go to market. Joe Sakic said they brought in Georgiev to be the starter. So it looks like Pavel Francouz and Alexander Georgiev will be the goaltending tandem in Colorado next year as they defend the Cup. Some felt with Georgiev or with Kuemper, that he wasn't the strongest in the playoffs. He had a good season during the regular season. But so we'll see. Maybe we'll get into a team that opens some space up here in terms of giving themselves an opportunity to get a goaltender. We'll talk about that in a moment. But that was the first trade. The second trade, was a doozy, especially if you're an Ottawa Senators fan. I think you got to like this. They were able to acquire 24-year-old Alex Debrincat from the Chicago Blackhawks. Debrincat was linked to the Flyers. Debrincat was linked to the New Jersey Devils. But the Chicago got him. The Senators gave up the 7th overall pick. We'll get to what they got, as well as the 39th overall pick in the 2022 draft and a 2024 third round pick. A lot of Blackhawk fans were angry. Ben Pope tweeted out that there was a ton of prospects. Stützle, Bernard Docker, a number of them on that. Boucher, a number of them on that list that Chicago could have acquired and did not do it. So this did not go over well in Chicago, this trade. But it went over very well in Ottawa. You got to line with Stützle and Brady Tkachuk, or however you want to line that up. You've probably got a guy that will definitely be in your leadership group. You got a guy that, of course, he is in his final season of a 3-year, $19.2 million contract. Excuse me. He is scheduled to be an unrestricted free agent next year. But this is a 40-goal scorer at 24 years old. Hard to pass up. And it's a young team in Ottawa with a lot of talent. I still think there's some things to work on in Ottawa. They still got some things to work on. I know that Bruce Garriock was reporting that the Senators are seeking defensemen out there that were tied to Mackenzie Weegar. Excuse me, just one moment here. Excuse me, sorry about that. They were tied to Mackenzie Weegar. They were searching around for a defenseman. So Ottawa may not be done yet. They do have some work to do. But I think Ottawa is taking a step forward with this big move. And that was a statement move for the Ottawa Senators. They've been long one of those teams that have been sitting and waiting in the wings. You had the whole situation with the arena. The arena's not close to the city. Really, it's out in Kanata. They're talking about a new arena in LeBreton Flats. Things are moving forward in that direction. I think a better team in Ottawa will allow that hype to happen. Of course, late Eugene Melnyk gone. Daughter's taking over. There's a lot of swirling parts in Ottawa right now, a lot of moving parts in Ottawa. So they're trying to make a statement and a splash in that market in Ottawa. And I think getting Alex Debrincat certainly does that. And not giving up a player on your roster here for that, good move for Ottawa. Really good move for Ottawa there. So that was what also happened. And as well, just before the draft was about to start, there was questions about a contract signing with Marc-Andre Fleury. And the original report suggested that would be a 1-year deal, but it did turn out to be a 2-year deal and for Marc-Andre Fleury. So he is going to remain with the Minnesota Wild, who I thought had a good draft. We'll get to that in a moment. 2-year contract, $3.5 million cap hit. They are going to go with the Fleury Cam Talbot combination that they did last year. Of course, Talbot, a former Calgary Flame, and so they've got that part. So they traded Kevin Fiala for Brock Faber and a first-round pick in this year's draft. We'll get into that as well. So the Wild moving forward, trying to stay in contendership, even though they're taking those penalties from Zach Parise and Ryan Suter contracts that they bought out. So Bill Guerin, I thought, had a good day getting Marc-Andre Fleury. Yeah, 2 years. It's not a 3.5 a year. Not the best deal, but is there a better goaltender out there than Marc-Andre Fleury available? That's the question. And I think that if he was out, Edmonton would have inquired, Toronto would have inquired. So that leaves them, of course, keeps that out of competition, keeps their goaltending solid for the upcoming season. So there we go. Before we do that, let's touch on the Flames because Brad Treliving did speak to the media today. There was some criticism that he did not speak to the media yesterday. Don't know what else there is to say. Apparently, him and Johnny Gaudreau did meet today. Reports indicate that during this process, Johnny Gaudreau and the Gaudreau camp wants to meet with ownership. I was listening to Steinberg and Pinder talk about this on the Flames Talk Hour on Sportsnet 960. The contract that they are thinking that Gaudreau is going to sign to stay with the Flames is going to be double what Sean Monahan made. So you're looking like $9.5 million, which is the reported start of this contract of negotiation. That's the start. That's not the final offer. So as far as we know, Treliving says that they're still focused on getting Johnny Gaudreau and Matthew Tkachuk signed long term. And that's what he's quote, focused our calories on getting that done. Suspect what I've been suspecting all along is still going the same way. This is going to be take over $10 million to sign Johnny Gaudreau. If Gaudreau goes, then Matthew probably will follow. That's the theory. Nothing has changed. We're still in a waiting game. And I think it's been a little tough for Calgary to do anything because you don't know what is going on. Of course, while teams are making trades, Calgary did not make a trade. Calgary did not have a draft pick in this year in the first round. They don't pick until 59 tomorrow. They didn't lose anybody. They didn't gain anybody. They remain status quo. So that is what's going on there in Calgary. Still not much else to report. We still remain in the same boat. So let's get to the draft part of this. And of course, the question coming in was who would be the number one pick. It was either Shane Wright, Uri Slavkovsky, and Logan Cooley. We did a poll on Twitter today, and it's on Shifts and Pucks, which again, you could follow us on Twitter. And and of that. And it looks like at this point, or by the way, it looked at that point, it looked Shane Wright won that poll. So we suspected that Shane Wright would go number one. When we had Derek Neumeyer on for our draft preview, Shane Wright was his pick to go number one, but it turned out to be Yuri Slavkovsky. So Yuri Slavkovsky ended up going number one. He was the first pick from TPS. Kent, you said that this was about competition, and they liked to cut his answer late. Slavkovsky said it during the World Championships that the Canadians were on the radar. So Yuri Slavkovsky, the first pick of the 2022 NHL entry draft. So you would have suspected that probably Shane Wright would have went number two to the New Jersey Devils. That would have been your foregone conclusion. Nope, it was Simon Nemec, and not truly surprising when you think about it. The Devils are loaded up front. You got Jack Hughes, you got Nico Hischier, you've got Jesper Bratt, you've got a lot of really good forwards there. Defense, you don't have the same prospect pool, so you get Simon Nemec from Nitra, from Slovakia as well. So that was the second pick. Then Arizona comes up and they pick who I think everybody was projecting them to pick. They picked Logan Cooley from the USA under 18 program. And then the Seattle Kraken had the fourth pick, and they picked Shane Wright from Kingston. So Wright, who was the projected number one pick coming into this draft, slipped to fourth to the Seattle Kraken. They have Matty Beniers and Shane Wright under center there for a long time. So that is Seattle's first pick. Philadelphia picked number 5. They took Cutter Gauthier from the U18 program. Then Columbus picked David Jiricek from this. David Jiricek was the number 6 pick. He's a defenseman, right-hand shot from Pleasant. And then the first WHL player was picked. And this was the Chicago Blackhawks pick that they got from the Ottawa Senators. And it was Kevin Krashinsky from the Seattle Thunderbird. A lot of people thought he would be, a lot of questions of where he would be in 7 to 15 range. People wondered, and Krashinsky ended up with the Chicago Blackhawks there. Then around this time we had another 2 trades to announce, and the Montreal Canadiens were involved in both of them. And this does connect to the Vancouver Canucks as well. So the Canadiens were able to acquire the number 13 pick in this draft from the Chicago Blackhawks. They traded Alexander Romanov to the New York Islanders. They acquired the number 13 pick. They then moved that number 13 pick to the Chicago so they traded Alexander Romanov to the New York Islanders. They got the number 13 pick. And that pick they turned into the Chicago Blackhawks, and they were able to acquire Kirby Dach. So it started with a boo. Romanov is getting really popular in Montreal, but I believe there was some question about his situation with Russia. I wonder if that impacted the decision for Montreal to trade. So Romanov ends up with the Islanders. They don't have Zdeno Chara. They're not going to have Andy Greene. That's an older defense, so I can see why the Islanders would want a young defenseman like Alexander Romanov. And the Blackhawks were looking to trade Kirby Dach. Kirby was a number 3 overall pick here in the 2019 draft. Let me confirm what I'm talking about here. And was expected to be the next number 1 center in Chicago, but he's following behind in Nick Suzuki and the Montreal Canadiens. So that was the trade involvement there. Montreal moving Romanov to the Islanders, getting a number 13 pick, moving it to Chicago for Kirby Dach. So that caused a stir at the draft. So moving on now, Marco Kasper was taken by the Detroit Red Wings. Then Matthew Savoy from the Winnipeg Ice was the second WHL player taken. He was taken number 9 by the Buffalo Sabres. And then we had another defenseman, Pavel Mitkonov from Saginaw, who was the 10th pick, selected by the Anaheim Ducks. And then Arizona and San Jose made a trade. Arizona moved Arizona traded 3 picks to pick up to get San Jose's 11th pick. Here, as that trade went down, so Arizona and San Jose traded 11 and 27, and then San Jose was able to get 2 other picks in that as well. As I just pull up that handy dandy information, but what Arizona was able to do is they were to take the second Winnipeg Ice forward. There was a lot of questions about where Connor Geekie would end up. He ends up with the Arizona Coyotes at number 11. So that's where he ends up. So Coyotes come away with Logan Cooley and Connor Geekie as their top 2 picks. And there, so as we go through here, we go through all these picks here, just to follow up here. As I go down a little bit here on my notes. Then number 12, though, the number 12 pick was so the trade was Arizona from San Jose to Arizona was for picks 27, 34, and 45. Moose Jaw Warriors, Denton Matejchuk was Columbus's 12th pick from the Moose Jaw Warriors, as mentioned. Chicago selected Frank Nazar with the 13th overall pick. That's what the trade was to get for Kirby Dach. And then number 14 was the Winnipeg Jets, and they took one of the best name in the first round, Rutger McGorty, a right winger from the USA under 18 program. Then the Vancouver Canucks picked. Now, just to get back to that Montreal Canadian New York Islander trade part that happened, apparently Elliot Friedman was reporting a lot of reports out there that the Islanders and the Canucks were close to making a trade, and it involved that 13th pick. Compensation unknown, but it fell through on the table. It sounds like Patrick Allvin was asked about it twice. He had no comment. Lou Lamoriello was asked about it. He said, talk to Vancouver. So that pick didn't happen, but Vancouver did pick from Djurgården Jonathan Lekkerimäki, right winger. He is, of course, from Sweden. And so just to get a little bit of information on what his situation as of right now, he was picked in the import draft by the Vancouver Giants. So already on Vancouver's radar somewhat already, but he is coming to development camp according to Chris Faber on Sunday, and is expected that he's going to be playing in Sweden next year. So still a guy, of course, still going to be a little bit of a project, but looks like he will be back in Sweden, but will be coming to development camp on Sunday. So that's what's going on with Jonathan Lekkerimäki, the Vancouver Canucks first round pick, and people will debate that. A lot of people will like his offensive range. Some people will see him as a project. We will wait and see about Jonathan Lekkerimäki in terms of that. I won't give too much comment on that at that point. But we did have a string of Swedish/European players taken here in a row. Noah Ostlund was taken a center from Buffalo. That was their second pick of the draft. Same team as Lekkerimäki. Joakim Kemmel from JVP was picked by Nashville at 17. Leon Bischel from Leksand, big defenseman, was taken by Dallas. Liam Ogren was taken by the same organization Ostlund and Lekkerimäki was at 19 from the Minnesota Wild. That was the Los Angeles King pick. Then the first Russian was taken. Ivan Murashchenko was taken by the Washington Capitals. And so he ends up there. Of course, his story, of course, 2 issues, being Russian right now. But he was able to get to the draft. The first, Pavel Mitkhanov is a Russian as well, but was playing in Canada. So first player playing in Russia, Russian playing not in Canada. Of course, he was also diagnosed with cancer, but Brian McClellan says they're confident with everything that they had there. So, and then Pittsburgh followed that up with Swift Current Bronco defenseman Owen Pickering. Chris Letang announced that pick for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Swift Current, Owen Pickering. Number 22, the Anaheim Ducks had their second pick of this draft, Nathan Kuche from the Quebec Remparts, coached by Patrick Waugh. Then St. Louis picked Jimmy Snuggerud from the USA number 18 program. Then Minnesota was back at the board again at number 24, and Danila Yurov was taken. And of course, because of his situation, he probably would have been a top 10 pick, a lot of people feel. But so Minnesota took that chance, picked him up at number 24. So that was their second pick. Whereas they have that situation with Kirill Kaprizov going on right now as well. And his situation with Russia, going on with Russia with apparent fake ID, reports of a fake ID. Bill Guerin will not comment on that as well. And then number 25, the Chicago Blackhawks were there. And this was a trade that they made here with the Toronto Maple Leafs. The Maple Leafs shipped out Peter Mrazek and picked him to and picked 38 to Chicago to 25. And they took defenseman Sam Rinzel from Chaska with that pick. So the Blackhawks had 3 first-round picks in this draft. And then pick 26, Philip Mazar, leather Slovak player. He was friends with Yuri Slavkovsky. Carolyn Cameron, who did a wonderful job with the interviews on Sportsnet, asked him if he was considered a beast. He called himself a little beast, and Yuri Slavkovsky was the big beast. So he was quite entertaining. Then San Jose, with the pick 27, took Philip Bystead from Limkopping. Then Buffalo took Yuri Kulich, their third pick in this draft, first round. That was their pick. Then Arizona took Maverick Lamoureux from Drummondville. Now, this was also a trade. Zach Kassian ends up in Arizona. Oilers got 32, and Arizona got a couple of future draft picks. The Oilers get 32, 20 for 29 to 32, and also a future pick. So Zach Kassian off to Arizona. A bad contract that the Oilers need to clear some cap space. They've got a lot of decisions themselves that they need to make. So that's what they did there. And they took a big defenseman. Arizona took a big defenseman from Drummondville named Maverick Lamoureux, 6'7". And then Winnipeg had their second pick of the first round. They took a Brad Lambert. Now, Lambert was an interesting case. Some felt he would fall all the way down to the second round. Some had him in a high top 10 at the early of the year. The feedback from scouts was his game wasn't consistent. So we'll have to see what happens with Brad Lambert there. His rights were traded in WHL from Saskatoon to Seattle. So he's going to be playing with some really good teammates. Korchinski, they have a chance to compete with the Memorial Cup on the Seattle Thunderbirds. I think that if the Lambert camp is smart, they'll try to get him to Seattle next season. I think that would be a good fit for him. So Brad Lambert, nephew of Lane Lambert, was the 30th pick. Pardon me, sorry about that again. And so that was the 30th pick, Brad Lambert. And then finally, here we had 2 more picks in this round. Of course, Isaac Howard, the Han Solo impressionist, Don Johnson impressionist, flash and drive of Isaac Howard. Said he's the best looking guy in the draft, had to be the best dressed in the draft. Certainly a lot of flash to him from the US under 18 program. See if that goes there in the NHL. Some think his bravado is too much. Some love his bravado. We'll have to see what Isaac Howard brings to the table. He's in a great organization in the Tampa Bay Lightning. Do they let that bravado come through, or are there changes coming? That's going to be the question with Isaac Howard. And then the final pick of the draft was Reed Schaefer. He was number 32 from the Seattle Thunderbirds. The final pick of that draft, of course, Oilers taking that pick. So that ended the 4-hour process, 4 hours, 5 minutes of the first round. So no JT Miller trade from the Vancouver Canucks perspective at this point. Johnny Gaudreau not signed by the Calgary Flames. The 2 big questions that we follow the closest here on the Shifts and Pucks podcast. But cap space move, Toronto making some cap space. Minnesota making there were a lot of interesting moves. There's a lot of things to absorb here in this draft. And tomorrow will be a very interesting day. That's rounds 2 to 7. That starts 8 a.m. Pacific, 9 a.m. Mountain, 11 Eastern. We'll do a recap probably shortly after that draft is ended. We'll put that up there. Of course, give us a follow. Twitter Shifts and Pucks, Facebook.com Shifts and Pucks, YouTube.com Shifts and Pucks, Twitch.com Shifts and Pucks. Subscribe wherever you get your audio, as well as on the Area 51 Sports Network. Should also mention, just follow us all individually as well. Sean Beardy Canuck 03, Tyler TNOBLE, Devin Gordhow 09, Christian Schneids SCHNEIDZ. I am KVOLE. Follow and with the Area 51, lots of draft coverage from the WHL and Area 51 site, OHL and Area 51 site, QMHA JHL site as well. Draft picks we're covering that to the best of our abilities as well. So keep an eye on that. Thanks everyone for watching and listening, and we'll talk to you all very soon. Bye for now.